Welcome, everyone, to the Monday edition of the Fair Territory Extravaganza. Monday Fair Territory, post-Thanksgiving. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. I am Ken Rosenthal here with you for the next, 25 minutes or so. And this is the week when things generally start to ramp up in Major League Baseball's offseason. This is the week leading to the winter meetings, and you will see certainly increased conversation. Whether it leads to increased results remains to be seen. Over the Thanksgiving holiday, starting Thanksgiving Eve and going right through the weekend, we had two reported signings. We're going to get into both of them today. We're also going to get into kind of a winter meetings preview, biggest storylines. That'll be in the Inside Dish. But let's start off with what happened over the holiday, because we haven't been on the air since then, and start with the most recent signing, and that would be the Orioles' 2-year, $28 million deal for Ryan Helsley, with an opt-out after the first year. Helsley, of course, drew some interest as a starter as well. The Detroit Tigers were among the teams looking at him as a starter, but ultimately he goes back to the role in which he is most familiar, a role in which he took a step back last year, first with the St. Louis Cardinals and then especially with the New York Mets. But his peripherals, his underlying metrics remain quite strong. He throws hard. He is a guy that teams still believe in. He had a good market, quite obviously, to get $14 million a year for 2 years. That's decent money for a closer. Not what he would have gotten if he had been a free agent after 2024, perhaps, but still for Helsley, a good outcome. Now, for the Orioles, this is the latest of several moves that they have made this offseason. They have been, I would suggest, the busiest team, at least in terms of results, of any thus far. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here, because they've already made 4 additions, starting off with Andrew Kittredge. You remember, they traded for him from the Chicago Cubs, then exercised his option. They had traded him to the Cubs and then brought him back. Leody Taveras enters their center field mix now with Colton Cowser. Taylor Ward, the big and controversial trade for Grayson Rodriguez. And now Helsley, the closer that they needed, with Felix Bautista out for at least much of the season. They still need to keep going with the bullpen in particular. They still need to round it out, because basically they traded most of their relievers, some of whom were becoming free agents during last season. Now, the biggest thing with the Orioles, the biggest thing that remains, the biggest thing that has haunted them since really last offseason, is their lack so far of a top-of-the-rotation starting pitcher. And frankly, I would like to see them add more than one starter, but they definitely are a team that we should watch for the top of the free agent market. I'm talking about Framber Valdez, Ranger Suarez, perhaps Tutua Amaya. Also, they're a team to watch with regard to trades. This is a team that, if trades are made for starting pitchers, if some of these guys become available, the Orioles should be in that equation. There's also a guy I wrote about today in my notes column, Cody Ponce, who is coming back from Korea. I wrote that he's probably going to get 3 years, 30 to 40 million. That's the kind of guy, too, that the Orioles should look at as maybe a secondary piece. So if they signed Valdez, for instance, and Mike Elias goes back with Valdez to the Houston days, and then acquired Cody Ponce as well, they could do that just by spending money, not making any trades. That would be an interesting combination for them. And of course, they also could remain active for a bat. Perhaps in center field, perhaps Kyle Tucker, another guy Mike Elias knows well from Houston. He drafted Kyle Tucker with the 4th pick of the 2015 draft. So that's the Orioles. Now, sticking in the AL East, the move that happened on Thanksgiving Eve. This one was rather fascinating too, even more fascinating than the Helsley move. And that's, of course, Dylan Cease to the Blue Jays. Cease, 7 years, a reported $210 million. There are deferrals in that deal, as I reported, and then Mitch Bannon of The Athletic followed with this, saying the deferrals are expected to reduce the present value AAV of the deal to around $26 million per year, still the largest pitching contract in Blue Jays history. So with the deferrals, we probably should look at it, if it's indeed 26 per year, as more of a 7-year, $182 million deal for Cease. Still really healthy, a really good deal for a guy who always seems to have a lot of interest. People love him in the industry, and yet his results at times have been inconsistent. Top 5 Cy Young finisher 2022 and 2024, and yet the results, like as I just said, haven't always been there. And it's curious to people why that happens. There are some reasons. Keith Law has written about that for The Athletic. But Cease, for any negatives you might have with him, the positives are, he always takes the ball. Here's his bio: 169th overall pick in 2014, debut in 2019, career milestones, 5 straight seasons, 32 plus starts. We'll get into that. AL WAR leader in 2022. That's the year he finished second in the Cy Young. 5 straight seasons, 200 strikeouts. That's impressive. And then here he is in 2025, and this is what I'm talking about. 4.55 ERA on a team in which Nick Pivetta pitched really well and had a good ERA, but Cease, for whatever reasons, didn't have that. It wasn't great out of the stretch, just seems to give up hits at inopportune times at points in his career. But I want to show you the durability, because this, to me, is the thing that recommends Dylan Cease the most. Since 2021, when he really became a regular starter, most games started in the last 5 seasons. And here's what's interesting about this chart. Cease, Barrios, and Gausman. What team do they all play for? The Toronto Blue Jays. They're the top 3 on this list, while Gausman tied with Logan Webb and Patrick Corbin. But the Jays have assembled a group of guys who should pitch, should take the ball. Trey Yesavich next season likely will be on some kind of innings limit. He'll still be only a rookie. And then you have as well Shane Bieber, first full season off Tommy John. I don't know that you can expect him to go 225 innings. So the Jays are in really good shape here with their rotation. And the question then becomes, what are they going to do next? Because this is a team that really has a variety of ways they can go. Is it going to be Bo Bichette? Is it going to be Kyle Tucker? Most likely, we will see them get a reliever of some ilk, whether it's Edwin Diaz or Pete Fairbanks, someone along those lines, Devin Williams. We'll talk more about the relievers as we go on here. But the Blue Jays, obviously, quite eager to defend their American League championship and quite eager to get where they did not get this season, even though they were just 2 outs away, their first World Series title since 1993. One other thing, sticking with the AL East, I mentioned this in my notes column today. It's about the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, the Rays are not going to be as active as the Blue Jays and the Orioles and the Yankees and the Red Sox, but the Rays are a team that will make moves. We know that. They always seem to make moves. And Brandon Lowe, coming up on the last year of his contract at $11.5 million, they've talked about trading him for several years now, and this maybe will be the year they do it, given the need that some teams have for a left-handed hitting middle infielder. That's what Lowe is, and one of the better ones in the game when healthy. Brandon Lowe is number 3 on the Rays' all-time home run list, but let's not get too sentimental when we're talking about Rays players. They're willing to trade them at any point. So Brandon Lowe could go. The Rays then would be left with a hole at second base that they don't really have an internal solution for. But here's a guy that would fit for Pittsburgh, a team that is more likely, in my opinion, to get their left-handed bats making trades than signing free agents. San Francisco needs a second baseman. There are other teams that could be in this mix as well. The Athletics are also looking for second base and third base potentially. So there are 3 teams in the AL East, and we haven't even talked about the Yankees and the Red Sox. We're going to get more into them as we go along here. The Red Sox already have made a big move for Sonny Gray, seemingly solving their biggest rotation need. I would still like to see them get one more, and then we have to see what they're going to do with their bats. Are they going to trade them? Or I'm talking about some other outfielders. Are they going to go re-sign Alex Bregman? Are there going to be other bats in their mix? Sean McCadden of MassLive.com reporting over the weekend they may have some payroll restrictions. Every team talks about payroll restrictions this time of year. They're building in the excuses. But anyway, we will be back with more on the Yankees in particular and a lot of other winter storylines when we come back with the Inside Dish after this.
KP, the website is chubbyshorts.com. The brand is Chubbies, but it's not just shorts.
Yeah, don't be fooled by the website's name. This is a one-stop shop for all things that I love. Swimming trunks, golf polos, and even flannels. It fits me perfectly. One Stop Shop is the place to go.
Yes, sir. KP, I've been wearing their flannel overshirt. It's like my favorite flannel and your softest sweater having a little baby. It's the best of both worlds. Classic flannel look with the warmth of a fleece. And we know it's that time of year to pull that off. The Chubbies flannel overshirt. It feels like your favorite flannel, but with the warmth of a cozy sweater. And for a limited time, Chubbies is giving our listeners 20% off your purchase at Chubbies with the promo code FOUL at checkout. But if it's Black Friday, skip the code. Take advantage of an even bigger markdown during their exclusive Black Friday sale. Just head to chubbiesshorts.com and make sure to support the show by telling them that Foul Territory sent you.
All right, time now for the Inside Dish. And as promised, we're going to take you through the top 5 storylines leading to the winter meetings. This will apply, of course, to the winter meetings, but this is the stuff to watch. And we'll start at the top of the free agent market, Kyle Tucker and even Cody Bellinger. Let's talk about the biggest bats available. Tucker is a guy we haven't heard much about so far. Doesn't mean there's not a lot happening with him. And you're going to see teams jump out for him, and they're going to be teams that jump out for Bellinger. And there are other bats in this market as well, as Schwarber and Bichette and Bregman. But Tucker and Bellinger, both left-handed hitters, both outfielders for the most part. Bellinger, of course, can play first base as well. These are perhaps the two most interesting guys, and the New York Yankees should be in the middle of both of them, at least talking about Bellinger at the very, very least. Now, here's Tucker. He is a guy who is just 28 years old as of right now. He'll be 29 in January, 4-time All-Star, 2-time Silver Slugger. We know who Kyle Tucker is, a 5-tool player. And there's been debate among certain segments of the Yankee fan base, and the Athletic's Chris Kirshner has wrote about this as well. Is he a better fit for the Yankees than Cody Bellinger? It seems to me the Yankees are more inclined to sign Bellinger, and you look at his vitals right there. Here's a guy that has had an up and down career, but lately back on the upswing. You see 2017 Rookie of the Year, 2018 NLCS MVP, 2019 NL MVP, 2020 World Series champion, and in the last 2 seasons has reestablished himself after, you remember, getting non-tendered by the Dodgers. Cody Bellinger is in many ways a perfect fit for the Yankees. Now, he is not the better player. Kyle Tucker is the better player. And yes, Tucker has had some injuries the past 2 seasons, and it's raised some doubts about him. But they've been kind of flukish, and he is an all-around type of guy, as is Cody Bellinger. So I expect Tucker to do better, and I expect the Yankees, if they don't end up with Bellinger, to be scrambling a little bit because I don't know that they want to pay Tucker. The ideal situation for the Yankees, my opinion here, is sign Bellinger, sign Imai, the Japanese right-handed pitcher, who is just 28 years old, and then sign maybe a closer. I don't know which one it would be, but if they do all that, they're having a pretty good offseason. So Tucker and Bellinger, it's going to be interesting to see how these guys land for sure. Will Tucker get to $400 million? I don't know. We're going to have to see how that all plays out. All right, now the NL East. That's another interesting storyline here because of all the action taking place with the top contenders. I'm talking about the Mets, the Braves, and the Phillies. Let's start with the Mets because they are maybe the most interesting team going right now due to the uncertainty of their roster. Now, they've made the trade, Brandon Nimmo for Marcus Semien, Pete Alonso and Edwin Diaz, still free agents. They supposedly want to retain them, but as we've seen and as Will Simon has written about in The Athletic, their level of sentiment goes only so far. They were willing to trade Nimmo, who was a career Met, a guy that was really beloved by the fan base in many ways. If they don't re-sign Alonso, if they don't re-sign Diaz, at this point, I don't know that it can be considered a surprise. But then the question becomes, then what? What are the Mets going to do? They need starting pitching. We all know that. Even if they don't trade Kodai Senga, which I expect they will, they're going to need to sign a big starter for sure, maybe get another one in some other way. And that's where they really need to put their focus. They lose Diaz. They need a closer as well. Maybe it's Devin Williams. Maybe it's someone else. But they're a team that you would expect is going to be quite active. Now, the Phillies are also a fascinating team because, like the Mets, they do not want to keep the same mix. It hasn't worked, or at least it hasn't resulted in a World Series title. Kyle Schwarber, JT Realmuto, their biggest free agents. If they re-sign them, okay, but that's the same group. and maybe you feel like you want to shake it up a little bit. Trading Alec Boehm would be one way to do it, but Schwarber is a guy that is so valuable to them. I can't see them losing him and going forward in the same way unless they feel, okay, we lose Schwarber, we get Kyle Tucker. And maybe they are a dark horse for Kyle Tucker in that regard. Then there are the Atlanta Braves. Now, the Atlanta Braves already have re-signed Raisel Iglesias. They've traded for Mauricio Dubon, but we are waiting for bigger things from them. And Iglesias fills a need for sure at the closer role, but they've been a team that has been interested in adding not only a shortstop, but also a starting pitcher. They're also a team with a chairman, Terry McGurk, who has said, we anticipate being a top 5 payroll team. He's not crying poor like the Yankees, even the Red Sox to an extent. He's saying, hey, we should be top 5. If that's the case, they should be spending and spending big. We'll see what the Atlanta Braves do. And then the Miami Marlins. The Marlins are a team that has been active, at least in talking about free agents. Let's see what the action results in. All right, now a couple of other things to get to here. Best remaining free agent closers. We've touched on this a little bit. Edwin Diaz is the top guy in the market, is saddled with a qualifying offer, and I wonder how much that is going to affect things for him. Let's say the Mets go in another direction. Let's say the Blue Jays go in another direction. Well, then what is it for Edwin Diaz? Where is his team? I'm always hesitant to talk like that because there are always teams in the mix, but will he get what he is seeking, which is essentially the same deal he had been on, 5 years, $102 million before opting out? Other closers, we've talked about them: Devin Williams, Robert Suarez, Pete Fairbanks. And then there is a whole nother tier talking about guys like Luke Weaver, Emilio Pagan, even Tyler Rogers. Not a closer, but these are quality late inning relievers, guys that teams will want and I would expect get paid fairly well. So the relief market is one to watch for sure, as we move on here, the starting pitching market. Now, we've touched on this as well. Framber Valdez, 32 years old. That's the only thing against him. Well, maybe not the only thing. He's had some questions about his clubhouse presence as well, the kind of teammate he is. But he is a guy that's been remarkably consistent. He's a sinker baller. He's the kind of pitcher you would want to have. He's fairly durable as well. So Valdez, I expect, will be up around Cease territory, whether you consider it $182 million in present value or $210 with the deferrals, whatever. He's going to do well. Maybe he doesn't get the years, but in terms of AAV, that's what I'm talking about with regard to Cease. His posting is up on January 2nd, so I don't expect we'll see him sign at the winter meetings. Probably will be Christmas week for him, but he's a guy that is a little bit bigger than Yamamoto, but not much. And he's had success over in Japan. Of course, you see his 2025 stats there: 1.92 ERA, 178 strikeouts, and 163 and 2/3 innings. He's a guy that teams want, and it's going to be interesting to see where he goes, because over the weekend, there was a report by Buster Olney of ESPN saying the Giants, a team that had been linked to Amai, are really looking at lower cost options. Yankee fans immediately jumped on this, saying, he's there for us. Again, I caution ever against saying, well, it's only one team involved. I'm sure there are other teams looking at Amai as well. So that's the starting pitching market. And finally, the other part of the starting pitching market, which is trades. Now, we've talked a lot about Tarik Skubal and Freddie Peralta and Joe Ryan and Stanley Alcantara and Edward Cabrera, all these guys that could be traded. But the way it was described to me by an executive over the weekend is that in the cases of Skubal and Peralta, and maybe even Ryan, but Skubal and Peralta for sure, they're not going to be traded unless their teams get really pushed. Their teams are not motivated to trade them. Now, could that change once the free agents are off the board and certain teams are more desperate? Yes. And I expect that at the winter meetings, if not before, you're going to see reports of teams trying to push on Skubal and Peralta and Joe Ryan as well. But that doesn't mean they're going to get traded. We hear this all the time. We see this all the time. Teams take interest in players, they entertain offers, but they don't necessarily trade them. The Tigers are trying to win with Tarik Skubal. The Brewers are trying to win with Freddie Peralta. The Twins are a separate case because I don't know what the heck they're doing. I'm not sure they know what the heck they're doing, as they are just coming off this situation where they sold part of the team to two investors. to basically pay down their debt. What that means for the payroll, we don't know yet. We don't know if they will want to trade Joe Ryan, or if at the other end of the spectrum, they'll want to maybe build up a little bit and put a better product on the field, since they've already alienated their fan base to a great extent. So all of this with regard to the starting pitching market and which pitchers might get traded should be clearer after the free agents sign, but maybe it starts and the talk starts even before that. I do not expect we're not going to hear, let's not use a double negative. I do not expect that pitchers like Tarek Skubal and Freddie Peralta will be out of the headlines just because their teams are presently saying, we're not really going to trade them. All right, that is it for the Inside Dish. Now, catch Foul Territory live from the winter meetings in Orlando, Monday through Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern on the FT YouTube channel. Expect big-name guests joining Scott Braun, AJ Przinsky, and Eric Kratz all 3 days. Subscribe on YouTube, rate 5 stars wherever you get your podcast to the entire Foul Territory network. We'll be back with Grillin Ken, your questions, right after this.
I have a unique holiday gift idea. It is called Superpower because Kratz, they care about you. It's a very unique health platform. It's new, and it finally gets you the answers that you need about what's really happening inside your body and what to do about it.
I got the answers. I'm on the journey of what to do about it. Why would I not want to give it to one of my loved ones in my life?
Give your loved ones something that actually lasts. That's right, Kratz. Better health and more time with you. If you go to superpower.com/gift, you get a free $49 premium gift box with your gifted membership. After you sign up, they'll ask you how you heard about them. Please mention FT to support the show. One simple lab test measures 100 plus biomarkers. We're talking hormones, vitamins, minerals, and so much more. You'll get a full health report and a personalized action plan built by clinicians, including nutrition, supplement, and lifestyle guidance. Get after it, FT fam. BetMGM account holders, today, how about an any sport parlay boost token? You can score a bigger payout if your wager with that token hits. Tokens can be used on parlays and on same game parlays. Gambling problem or concern? There's help. Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Time now for Grillin Ken. Let's get to your questions. First one comes from Tyler Mack Smith, who asks, does the Braves landing an extra draft pick from Baldwin's Rookie of the Year award make them more or less likely to sign a qualifying offer free agent? That's a good question. And I would say the answer is more likely, because if you sign a qualifying offer free agent, you lose a draft pick. But at the same time, you gain one from the compensation that results from the Rookie of the Year award. So I would expect that, yes, the Braves would be more likely to do that. Yes, they want to keep their picks. All teams do, but that to me would seem to be the way to go. So let's see what happens there. Now, next question. This one comes from Harold Garb on Instagram, who says, who pays for a free agent that undergoes a surgical procedure, his former team or himself? A free agent undergoing a surgical procedure would obviously have to do it himself, I would think. His former team is not responsible at that point. He is not under contract to that team. But it's pretty rare when we see free agents undergo surgeries while they are on the open market. I can't even remember the last time that happened. So I wouldn't think that that is a thing. It's a good question, and it's a legitimate question, because, of course, players would want to get that taken care of before they are, in theory, unemployed, but it just doesn't happen all that often. All right, next question. Let's see what this one is. This one comes from Peter Ross, 1907, who asks, Yankees are interested in a new second baseman, and what relievers are they in on? I don't expect the Yankees are necessarily interested in a second baseman. They've got Jazz Chisholm Jr. to play that position. That's his preferred position. Third base is a different story to some extent, but they've got Ryan McMahon there. So I don't know why the Yankees would be looking at second or third base. Shortstop is the question with them, with Volpe coming off surgery and Jose Caballero being more of a utility player. I would expect they'll start the season with Caballero and then go to Volpe once he is healthy. There just aren't a lot of good shortstops available at the present time. So That is where the Yankees are with their infield. Relievers, I don't know exactly where they're going to go there. And they're, I'm sure, looking at all the top closers out there and talking to all of them, from Devin Williams to Edwin Diaz, all of them. But price is going to be a question, and it's going to be a question of just how they want to do it, because they've got David Bednar now. They acquired him in the trade, so they don't need necessarily a ninth inning guy. Maybe one of those lesser relievers that I talked about, lesser in terms of name value, Emilio Pagan, one of those guys, Tyler Rogers, that is more appealing to them. All right, with that, we are going to wrap it up. We've got a Thursday. Oh, hold on. Samuel Ortiz, 3439, asks, good morning. What's up with the Dodgers? What are they up to? Good question, as always. The Dodgers are a team that, in the terms of one executive, like to hang around the backboard. And what I mean by that is they like to see the market develop, and then they kind of say, okay, if we can get this kind of short-term deal, we'll take him. If not, we'll pass. They are looking at relievers along those lines. One-year guy I can see making sense for them, even though they've got Tanner Scott under contract still. And let's see if they become a player for Kyle Tucker or someone else whose market might not develop to the extent that that player wants. I don't think it's going to happen that way with Tucker, but they could use Kyle Tucker for sure. And they're a team that I expect is going to do something. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's very difficult to bring the same team back, especially when you've got many older players. It doesn't always work the way you want it. You want to change up the mix a little bit. I do expect that they're going to do that. All right, with that, I want to thank everyone for watching, for listening. Foul Territory coming up. Zach Britton, Shai Davidi, and Bob Kendrick from the Negro Leagues Hall of Fame on the show today with Eric Kratz, AJ Przinsky, and Scott Braun. Fair Territory returns Thursday at 12:30 Eastern. Have a great week, everyone. Talk to you then.